It's like this
Yeah.
random lady who serves you pancakes is out here
Yeah.
killing people.
Hi, I'm Kat.
And I'm Friendo. And we're the ghouls in a cornfield.
Yeah, that. Oh my god,
ghouls
Gabe.
in a cornfield.
It was like when I switched to you, I just like forgot for a second that that's what you look like, and it just like is amazing. Everyone should go look at our YouTube so you can see Gabe be the scariest clown that ever was.
I always look like this.
Oh yeah, sure. Mm-hmm.
My regular.
Get ready with me. I'm a clown.
Yeah. I know clowns. I have a friend who's a clown.
That's rad.
And I was just like, why can't I do that? Like, my makeup just it was hard. I was really struggling.
It's a lot of work.
So, credit to all the clowns out there. Like, you know, you get a lot of hate, right? Chlorophobia and all of that. Mm-hmm. It's like, you'd be doing the Lord's work. You're really fun. Clowns are fun. And people need to chill. Mm-hmm. You know, people need to chill. They're not that bad. That. You're being silly.
Yeah.
Totally fair. Like, honestly, people are afraid of all kinds of stuff. So I get it. But, like, people who jump on the bandwagon, like, oh, I don't play with clowns. Like, go to a circus. Chill out.
Yeah. Yeah. Most of the time, they're just having a fun time. They're not usually trying to murder you.
Right.
It really depends.
Yeah. Most often, they're trying to make you laugh.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're trying to make you scream, but it's because you went to a haunted attraction that had clowns. Yeah. So that was on you. So.
Mm-hmm. It's like that one case where you're like driving down the highway or like an abandoned road, and then like a clown's in front of you suddenly. Like
you are allowed to be afraid of that.
You're allowed to be afraid of that one.
I would say you're allowed to be afraid of anything that steps out of there if you're on a long
if you're on an abandoned
all by
road,
yourself, and somebody comes out of you're allowed to be a little afraid of that.
Yeah.
If they're a clown, you're allowed to be even more afraid of that. Yeah. That's just out of pocket, you know? Like, that's nothing to do with clowns and their jobs.
When you remember you have, like, free will and you can do anything
that's
like,
a problem.
Really unhinged.
Right, no, you don't do that.
Don't do that. You're gonna
be nice. But we are the ghouls next door. We are not in a cornfield. Nope. And we are the media literacy show from a horror lens where we explore the real life, historical, psychological, generational influences behind our cinematic fears. And kicking off our slasher summer of 2 episodes will be Clown in a Cornfield. If you can tell, I'm one of the clowns in said cornfield.
Yeah. A friend of mine.
Friendo. This will be an interesting episode for me. A big thing is just like I read the book. I haven't read all the books. There's more I haven't gotten to. But I have read the first one, which this film is. And so I will be talking a bit about that. But there is I am excited because it's like a newer slasher, you know, that's really fun, but also like it has its own like updated like themes, you know. It is stuff that like people are feeling right now, which is always refreshing. And so I'm excited that exists.
Yeah.
And I hope that it inspires production companies to invest in other horror novels, in slasher novels, to make them into films.
That would be rad.
You know, like this is really fun, you know, and you know, credit to both the director of this and the writer of the book. Great work. Now I want other stuff. Yeah. There are some stuff we'll cover later in the year. There's a specific slasher trilogy that I would really love to see on the screen because I just think it is a great, like, in the same like wavelength of Scream, where it has this like meta view of horror while also having a deep appreciation for horror. Like people will eat that up. So stay tuned for later in the year when I try to soft pitch me being a director of said trilogy.
Okay.
We'll see if that ever happens. But hopefully...
The manifestation game.
Right. Like, let's see. If we can make this and have it be fun and keep, honestly, like, not too far off from the book, which is, you know, fun, because sometimes there'll be a really great slasher and they'll make it into a film, and I'm like, why did they do any of that? The slasher book was so good. Looking at You, There's Someone in Your House. That was such a good book, and it was such a depressing, like, it was just such a movie. This is not that, I don't think. As a reader of the book, I was not like, you know, this is awful. I do still think people should read it, though.
Yeah, I thought it was fine. And that's okay. I like what it was saying, though. I liked what it was saying, so there we go.
I will say it's really hard for me to emote.
As a clown?
As a clown, which is the point.
Yeah.
I'm not allowed to have any other emotions. But I'm like, you know, moving like my eyebrows, you can't see them. They don't exist.
No, I can't.
They're
I see your
big, fake eyebrows.
Yeah. The ones on top of your real ones.
Yeah, those are doing stuff, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm always
your
smiling.
eyes wider, yeah.
Yeah, it's a rough time.
Yeah.
So more credit to clowns.
Yeah.
I did not go to clown school, clearly.
Yeah.
I'm a freshman at it. But why don't we hop in and see what we come up with?
Yeah, go for it.
See if I become delirious from the amount of
makeup on your face?
The makeup, yeah, the makeup that is on me. So Clown in the Cornfield is from this year, 2025, and it's about a fading Midwestern town in which Friendo the Clown, a symbol of bygone success, reemerges as a terrifying scourge, and it is directed by Eli Craig. Clown in a Cornfield is a funny, unexpected splatterpunk slasher. It is based on the book of the same name by Adam Caesar. It is a new age slasher putting a spin on a classic villain, the clown. Following high schooler Quinn as she moves to a new home in the small factory town of Kettle Springs with her father, Dr. Glenn Maybrook. Coming from Philly, love it. The family duo has some dark history they're working through, but Quinn quickly discovers some intense fractures within this country community. You know, they got their own stuff going on, and then the town is weird. She's like, I'm not built for that. Like, I'm used to Philly squabbles, right? Like, it's in your face. It's like obvious. Like, it makes sense. It's oppressive. It's systemic. And this is like, what do y'all like? People
also
do?
that, but weird.
Yeah, it's like so weird, right?
Yeah.
Like, they're pretending to be something else, you know? Philly ain't doing that. As teenagers are one to do, she befriends the outcasts in the town despite numerous warnings and protestations of others, especially the adults in the town. One of her fellow like youths is like, don't hang out with them, they're the weirdos. And she's immediately like, they're my new best friends.
Yeah.
And
very
then every single adult in the town is like hates them. And she's like, what? She's like, am I making this up?
And like they aren't even like doing anything. Like I get like the factory situation, but like other than that, like they're not really doing anything. Like it was really odd. And
she doesn't know that, right? She's like sitting in a diner and they walk by and then like everyone turns. It's like very like Twin Peaks, like we all are in the know. And she's like, excuse me, what the F? Super valid response to that. And it's and in the book it's very much like that too. Like it's very subtle. It's like little things and you're like, okay, what the heck is going on? She feels that these outcasts, these youths, are not too bad. Just misunderstood and living under the shadow of a legacy in a factory town. It happens. You know, they always want to leave the town and they're like, you have to pick up the whatever tools we use in this factory. The adults, however, seem to take it personally that these teens not only exist, but do so in an authentically them way. The audacity. As the locals bicker amongst themselves and tensions boil over, a sinister, grinning figure emerges from the cornfields to cleanse the town of its burdens, one bloody victim at a time. One at a time is a stretch. It's actually all at once.
Really fast.
Everything everywhere all at once, honestly, is happening. After a few too many accidents pinned on the youth, they escape to the cornfields for a rager. Of course. But the party has more to offer than misunderstanding body language and too much underage drinking. There's also a killer on the loose.
Classic.
The killer has donned the face of the town's beloved mascot, Friendo, which is the mascot of the Bay Pen corn syrup factory, which is such a fun thing to have be your
very, like,
town's
funny.
love.
Yeah.
And Bay Pen had helped the town thrive like for decades. You know, it was like its pride and joy. With such a large divide between the conservative adults who strive to preserve the status quo and the teens desperate to shape their own future, the threat of Friendo feels especially heavy. And with delightfully absurd gore and entertaining banter, Clown in a Cornfield is a fun summertime slasher. It offers a pleasant, somewhat unexpected twist, some truly bizarre characters, and is always beloved in the slasher genre, teen angst.
They were angsty. I will say.
They were angsty, but like honestly, it wasn't annoying to me. You know, sometimes teen angst can like get a little too Disney Channel.
Yeah,
it didn't feel Disney Channel-y to me. It still like wasn't 100% authentic. Some of it was like this person's clearly acting. But a good part of it, I felt like this is really fun. Like, like in the slasher genre, right? Of like overacting and like dramatic teenagers, like they're up there.
Yeah.
So my section for this is that the book is always better. It's just
is what it is.
It's very, very rare that I will be like, you should watch this film more than you should read this book. Not to say that it hasn't happened. It certainly has. Yeah. But I have read Adam Caesar's Clown in a Cornfield. I read it last year and I had a really good time. I was like, fun. It was fun. I listened to it as an audiobook and I super recommend it that way. I just think it was very entertaining. The narrator was did a really great job and it was like fast paced and there's like gore and fun. Books will always have the upper hand on films because we get more time with the characters. We're like in their minds and we work alongside them, trying to figure out what is going on. So like that's always going to kind of be better. There's something about suspense and thrill in a book that beats a film atmosphere for me. It's so much easier to put yourself into the character's shoes as you read, because in a film we are voyeurs always, right? There's a fourth wall, right? We exist on the other side of it, and so we're forced to watch these characters make poor decisions, whereas in a book we're saddled right there like beside them as the dread sleeps in, because like we're not seeing things that they're not seeing in a lot of ways, right? Clown in a Cornfield was a thrilling book to read because of Caesar's suspense. Like he you don't know what's going on until it just like shit hits the fan and you're like, what is happening? But there's a few like faux scares leading up to it that I was missing in this. Like there's one particular scene and I was like, we don't get that because they killed off the two characters who do it like before we get to the party. And it was like that was like a really fun situation. Like I do feel like the film rushed us and didn't like establish enough this distrust between people and like the antics of these youths, which again, you only have so much time, right? The runtime is movie size, right? So and book is book size. So while the film portrays the adults' hostility as aggressive and sudden, the book develops it something like as something more insidious and relentless. Like it feels everywhere. In both versions, Quinn's frustrations with the adults' biased attitudes can easily be written off as typical teenager complaints, right? When she's like, oh, the teacher just like, she got detention on the first day and she's like, that teacher's crazy. And of course, like, every kid thinks the teacher's out to get them, right? This just happens to be he really was. And like that is like really what's fun about the book and the film is like those little things where it's just like, of course you're saying that, you're acting out because like we're going through stuff, and it's like that both can be true. I could be acting out and also these adults could be wilding. Like what is going on here? However, the book's extended time with Quinn and her peers makes the adults' dismissal feel like a deeper betrayal. Some of the people that are revealed to be villains, like you know them a little better in the book, and so it's like oof, you know, there's really
it hurts more.
there's nobody here saving us, you know? We see how these authority figures who should be protecting and nurturing the teens systematically fail them instead. Like they want to do that. And it makes as much sense as the film does. Why they're doing it, because I'm like, that's a lot of time you just wasted. It's like 18 years of life. What are we doing? A big change from the book and the film was the characterization and fate of two characters. So couple Matt and Ronnie assist the adults in their slaughter of the youth of the town in the books. In this, like, Matt is killed like immediately, and Ronnie is like killed later, and it's like, she honestly was really fun. But this was really, like, to me, was especially impactful in the book because readers were already reeling from the reveal of there not only being more than one friendo murderer, but that it was the adults in the town. That were intent on like refreshing the future generation to better align with their views. But like to see one of their own participating in the slaughter was a surprise, but it also represented the bigger theme that not all young people in our country are like liberal of the beliefs of our main characters. Like we have so many people who are being molded and shaped into the very monsters the friendo killers were hoping their kids would become. Like some people are that, right?
By removing that, they kind of minimizes the message a little bit.
Like it's to this, it really is like all the kids are victims instead of like some kids aren't, like some people grow up to be their parents. They are because they were manipulated, but still. Right.
I hear you.
But I mean, like at some point, like, and like you do feel bad, like they are villains all the way up through, and they're literally like watching their friends be murdered and are murdering them, and they think it's funny. Like that's how desensitized they are, right? And that's like so important in the book. Right. No, but I mean, like in the book, it's so important because you're just like, really? Like we are all so like, we're still reeling from that, like from who we've like pulled the mask off and revealed to be everyone that like we've had to look to for some form of guidance is like literally killing us. And then also our friends who were in the trenches with us are also killing us. And so that to me, like I kept waiting for the other shoe to drop, and then they killed him like immediately, and I was like, what is happening? And while adults are not actively slaughtering youth by way of chainsaw, they're certainly doing their fair share of endangering and jeopardizing their lives on the daily. Like that's truth. And this is an over-exaggerated fun slasher version of that, but it's a true thing that people have to deal with, right? And I do want to note, like here, that Ronnie in the film was an unexpected delight. Like I don't think she was meant to have as much screen time or to do what she did. Like actress Verity Marks was hilarious and blunt, and I feel like she stole like more than enough scenes and lines that would otherwise feel like either over the top or silly, and instead they felt really funny and authentic. She was my favorite character. Like they're like at first I was like she was nothing, and as soon as they like let her say stuff, like she was like, oh, this is my boyfriend said, you know, and just like and like goes to kiss him, and then he's real. And she's like, what the hell? Like every single thing that she said, it was like they moved on too fast. Like they didn't give her enough credit for how fucking funny that was. And like everything else is like she's, you know, she's super dumb and like not, but she was just like, this sucks. Or she was just like, oh cool, I'm gonna die next.
We're in some awful 80s slasher horror movie in the corn.
Which means what exactly?
It means I'm next.
Like she's like, it's very clear that I'm next, right? And so like as much as I'm like sad that they changed the characters for the film, I did really like this version of Ronnie way more than I liked her in the book. Obviously, because she was nothing in the book, really. But I thought she was fun. Right? Another big change would be casting Ayo Solanke as Tucker, making him a black character in a horror movie, which means that when he dies first, it felt shitty. And like to be fair, there is like past characters that died. I still am confused as to really how that happened. And why people wouldn't know anyway.
No, but it was upsetting.
Those characters didn't matter.
Took me out.
These characters did, and Tucker was fun, and I would say he was about the same as he is in the book, like in like
Mm-hmm.
not my favorite character. But it did,
Yeah.
it's like you have to think about this stuff, guys. Like at the very least make a joke about it, to be like, haha, doesn't that suck, you know?
Yeah.
But to like ignore it like it's not real, like, because I like to think that it's just that like Solanke like came in and like blew them away, was like really fun with his acting, and they were just like, of course we're gonna, like, we're not gonna do it, and we're not gonna change the script because we made this character black. But it's like you do have to kind of acknowledge that.
Yeah.
They didn't. It should, like, just, it's 2025, buddies. But he did seem to be having fun in the role, and Tucker is like a goofy guy in the books too, so that was fun. But it was just a true shame to kill him first, and unlike in the books, right? Which now distance, like, he was now distanced from the other youths in town, right? Because like, if that was your script, it is already different from the books, so like you could change it. You literally could have made it so that Matt died first.
Yeah.
Right?
Like, easily, it wouldn't have changed anything because they did it like in succession of each other. Yeah.
Yeah, it didn't matter. Like, maybe the, like, later when they're talking and they're like, oh, they don't know where either of these boys are, and they like write it off because it's like, oh, they're probably gonna do a prank, which is fine. Which is why they like react the way that they do at the party. Sure, you could have flipped that. You could, like, somebody in the writer's room could have said like, well, since we got Aya here, you know, acting, what if, fun idea, we just switch it up a little bit, right?
Yeah,
somebody
it's a matter of
could have
editing.
said that.
Yeah.
Somebody could have did that. So that sucked. But I think he did a great job. The character was very true to him. It just sucks that he wasn't alive with the other kids, and that he didn't get to do some of his like later pranks that was also fun in the book. So I just feel like we were denied more of his character, and Matt's too. But again, we don't have all the time in the world, so I get it. Just like, still gonna switch it around next time. There are several other character changes between the book and movie, which is expected given the different storytelling constraints of each medium. This means certain scenes are changed. In the book, Rust saves Cole, not Quinn's dad. This was even more impactful since the moment when we thought Rust had died earlier carried much more weight than in the movie. Like in the movie, Cole is forced to quickly move on. They're like, just come on, and he's like, dang. In the book, he's like genuinely distraught, which feeds into like his emotional state later when it's like revealed that they've had feelings for each other. In this, it felt like they kind of threw it together. It that does happen in the book. That they are in love. And Russ was just so much more of a hero in the book. In this, he kind of like comes in the tail. I don't know. That made me sad. He is like, and also I felt like Quinn liked Rust a little bit more in the book than she does in this. She like,
she's very dismissive of him and like has like the ick against him immediately.
And in all fairness, she doesn't like him right away. But she's not super against him. So whatever. The motivation for the Friendo conspiracy in the book is even more fanatical, with Sheriff June aspiring to make Kettle Springs great again. So subtle, right? No, not at least. About critiquing this older generation that's oppressing and literally silencing future generations. In the film, that theme is certainly at play, but not nearly as overt or obvious. Honestly, the reveal of the townsfolk felt less earth-shattering in the movie. And that could very well be because I already knew as a reader that was happening. In the book,
I'll be real, as someone who didn't read it, I predicted that immediately and then was like, ugh. Because they didn't like have it be like a reveal. I immediately picked up I was like, these adults are sus. Like, so I feel like if the book, it probably would have hit harder versus what I was seeing on film. So
yeah, well, it's just like in the book, like we learn more about those adults, right? We're grown to like, if not trust them, at least look to them with some authority and reluctant respect, because they're adults, right? And like when the friendos start killing them, I really didn't think, right? And so when it was like revealed that they were the participants, it was generally surprising and impactful. Like there's like the when one of them, and she's the one who has her hand blasted, if I remember correctly. In the like when the dad's like patching her up, it's like, it's first of all, it's a woman, which also like people, it's so easy to villainize all the men in the town, but she's also a part of it. It's like this random lady who serves you pancakes is out here killing people. Like, that was so like, it was like her too. Like, I just felt like it just kept going. And then also they missed this whole part where the previous doctor like knew that they were doing some shady stuff, and so they killed him, and that's why the job opened up, and the dad like ends up like with his dead body and like has to like fight his way out. Like, again, you only have so much time. I get it. But there's like some really cool stuff that happens in the book. So again, I hope for like super, like, as spoiled as it is now, I still think it's really fun, and like you will have a good time as a reader. And again, if you're not like, I don't like to open up a book, listen to it. It's great. Lastly, I love a good splatterpunk book. While some films in the torture porn category can feel like gratuitous gore overload, which probably explains why the movie toned down some of the deaths, like as like slashery as it is, it's not. It's not as close to the book, to be honest. Splatterpunk books hit differently. They're genuinely fun. It's certainly not for everyone. So if you're sensitive to gore and excessive violence, please find yourself a cozier, like, horror read. No shame. Okay? But Splatterpunk revels in graphic violence and deliberately pushes boundaries with tone and content. And the deaths in the book were heavy-handed, drawn out, and memorable. Right? Deaths in the film felt very punchy and fast-paced. And while there were certainly some entertaining moments, right, like being pitchforked to the ceiling and still having a conversation, that was funny. Or running chest first into a chainsaw. My girl Ronnie, what were you doing, baby? Like, you knew you were online. She was like, I'm on deck. I know I'm up next. And she's like, to that thing. I was like, girl, what are you doing? And that's like, again, super fun. I was still like waiting for creative carnage that we see in these books. And while I can't get behind like Terrifier, like the series, because I don't connect with its like overarching themes, and like the abuse on certain bodies feels very intentional and very intentionally not for me. The Clown in a Cornfield was as educational as it was traumatizing for its readers. Like, I can get behind their reasons for why the slasher was that. But ultimately, Clown in a Cornfield is still a bloody fun mess of a slasher where young people can feel inspired to fight back against the oppressive systems of the generations before. Hopefully, before it gets to this point, in a far less gory way. But whatever gets the job done, honestly. So, like, I was saying, if they're coming at you with chainsaws, you can meet them with chainsaws. Let me be the first to tell you, right? And talking about, like, people being masked while, like, assaulting a vulnerable population. Adam, I see you.
Yeah, and I mean, I've seen some videos where people are fighting back, but it's like, it's a scary time to be alive.
Yeah. It really is.
So in my section, as a precursor, I'm just going to say, I'm talking about a very specific group of Gen X and Boomer population. So if you're listening to this and you're like, I'm not from insert gen here, or I'm from insert gen here and I'm not like that, or I've been fighting oppression since before you were even born, or I love and I love and accept my child for who they are. I'm not talking about you. If it doesn't apply, let it fly. Just to avoid some comments that I know I'm inevitably going to get for the things that I'm going to say. There's a very vocal group of Gen X and Boomer population that have power over a lot of things right now, or voted to allow the Republican administration to wreak widespread harm. I'm talking about them. So in my section, the children are the future until they disagree with you. So one of the most compelling part of Clown in a Cornfield is the representation of how some adults will often claim children are the future until that is inconvenient or conflicts with their own worldview. As Gabe was saying, like, someone who's not authentic to themselves does not like to witness someone who is authentic to themselves. And I will say, I say this in my 30s, where one would genuinely argue I'm a whole ass adult. But as a member of one of the most hated generations, a millennial, I have witnessed firsthand that the more I learn about myself and find acceptance for who I am, my gender identity, sexuality, chronic illnesses, and neurodivergence, the more pushback I get from people who have known me growing up and who see these identities either as failings on their part or just as like a vastly different version of me than who they thought I was, and therefore like are hard for them to understand and accept, which whatever. But found family's great, and I love myself after much therapy and healing. But it's frustrating out here ultimately, and healing isn't linear, so I still have my moments. But this conflict specifically is familiar for many millennials and younger gens who, in finding themselves, lose the acceptance of the people who have been around them the longest. Additionally, there's a lot of struggle for millennials and subsequent gens who are told throughout their lives, like, go to school, learn, be different, be like, learn as much about the world, and are praised for their interest in learning and like figuring out how society works in their youth, only to later be ostracized by or be in consistent conflict with their families and society as a whole for using that knowledge to question systems and problems.
Right.
We were the future until we became real people instead of tools. Additionally, finding self-acceptance can be really threatening to individuals who have spent their lives burying themselves under conservative ideals and identities. When you have generations who were never allowed to be themselves because it was not safe to do so, and who feared authenticity and emotion because those behaviors were never modeled or taught to them, someone acting authentic and emotional and proud to be themselves is a threat to their understanding of reality. Essentially, having a smart kid is great for when you're bragging about it to your neighbors, or for when you can move up a tax bracket because of their success. But bad when you call out a racist family member or argue that the Republican Party has historically harmed and disenfranchised the working class, or just
God
like,
forbid.
yeah.
God forbid we use that college education you forced us to get.
Yeah. Or you're just like, I'm gay and I don't want to be called she, her. And they're like, ah,
right.
You know, like it's like
jump scare.
Yeah,
it's the friendo
just
for them. Pronouns are the friendo for them.
Literally, though. Okay, but like in questioning these systems and narratives that have been successfully pushed onto much of the older generations, we threaten their understanding of the world as well as their role and identity in it. And that's what we see happen in Clown in a Cornfield. It's like these kids don't conform. And because of that, wow, I have to question everything that I've done that was kind of effed throughout my entire life that maybe I could have not done.
Right.
And now I have to like reckon with that. And so instead of doing that, I'm going to murder these kids. So we would not have the government we currently do if not for this disconnect.
Right.
So how did we get here? What makes these younger gens so hated? Enter the internet. And information being spread at mass to people around the world. Sometimes that information would help educate people, and for others it could help misinform, but largely we see younger generations being more socially and politically informed, both because of the social media and the internet, as well as just more access to higher education. We were told to go to college. We were told we must finish high school. And like, you know, like we have to stay in school. That was what we were parroted our entire youth. And a lot of us did. So we've learned a lot. And in this shift, we witness older generations struggle to control the narrative that was successfully pushed onto them. But still with the foundation of control of most of the systems and structures that be. So like they still have the power, but they're like, why aren't you listening to us?
Right.
And a great example of this was in a recent survey I saw on the news that they said younger gens hold a much more favorable view of socialism and communism compared to previous gens. And they were like, what would cause this? And they're like, what's wrong with these kids? And it's like, well, every time we were like, maybe we shouldn't have to pay for healthcare, you said that's socialism. And we're like, wow, socialism sounds rad, actually.
Yeah.
Maybe we take care of each other. I would love that, actually. So this is also not to say that the older generations were not progressive. Like, obviously, protesting against fascism and oppression have been taking place for decades. We would not have the progress that we've made without some people protesting and fighting
Right.
against these systems. As I said, I'm not talking about them.
Right.
The people that know and have been fighting. The issue is that there's a large base of heavily misinformed Gen X and boomers who control our government that either operate within the MAGA framework, have been Republicans since Reagan, or are just too moderate to allow for change to take place. Some of this is done through willful ignorance, conscious hatred, or religious fervor and moral self-righteousness. It really depends on where folks fall on the privilege spectrum to be able to gauge intention versus impact. But we see this play out in Canada Cornfield, where the majority of the adults who are very attached to how things used to be, both in the town and within their country, see the youth as threats to their identity and understanding of the world, so much so that they want to destroy their own children and don't conform to their ideals. And Friendo is just a representation of traditional American values appropriately dressed up as a clown.
Yeah, look at you.
So
look at you
yeah, like honestly,
in your clown mask.
And I know we went on like before the episode started to like saying clowns are cool, but like in this case, that's the negative connotation of them.
Right.
Further complicating the picture, many pre-internet adults grew up in a foundationally different America, both on paper and economically. There was more incentive to be a part of the system because in the boomer time, depending on where you fell in complexion, you could benefit from these systems. You could buy a house on a one salary. You know what I mean? Like you could do things that you can't even kind of do now. Society pushed a heavily curated image of what it was to be an American as well, that was intentionally designed to hide the magnitude of harm enacted by the US globally and nationally. Nationalism was like in full swing. And they lived in a significantly crueler world, interestingly enough, which feels bonkers to say when looking at what's happening right now. But it was easier to market tyranny when there was less access to alternative information. When the government could not hide the horrors, they justified themselves through fighting communism or terror or whatever else they could claim moral superiority over. Scapegoating and fear were currency that we saw manipulated through every scare that fueled the social dynamics of the 50s through 90s, from Satanic Panic to the Red Scare and more. Why? In controlling the narrative, they could more easily control the population. We've had so many episodes about this, so like I'm not citing sources because we've talked about this so many times, and I will link those episodes if you would like to get like the fact-checked versions of this rant.
We'll write a book.
Yeah. But a population that finds itself justified, superior, and also with something to fear/scapegoat is easily motivated. And inversely, a population that's disenfranchised, demeaned, and feared is easier to oppress. The key to this working was a combination of two things: a lack of access to education and isolation. From the 50s to 90s, people were far less connected in that there was no social media or internet, there were no cell phones. People were siloed into neighborhoods across the country. You could call someone on the phone, but it was a landline. If you missed them, you missed them. You couldn't send a text or post online to rally a group of people together. It would take much more intentional effort. So we didn't have this constant access to each other. And this just siloed people a lot more. It was a lot easier to isolate groups. It was a lot easier to force people into hiding who they truly were if they could. Because that's how you would survive when you were in these siloed communities. And this lack of connection allowed for governmental control to be a lot easier to manage, and also forced a lot of people to conform and deny their authentic selves in order to survive. They could not build community when they were siloed and isolated. So those who could not hide were often condemned, ostracized, killed, institutionalized in either asylums or prisons, or just like successfully hid somehow or fled the country. You know what I mean? A large part of the shift in the early 2000s through social media, community is now a few clicks away. People who can now connect at a rate that was never experienced before. Folks who were previously isolated and taught that they were abnormal or wrong suddenly could now find people like them online. So information spread at a rate that was never seen before. And so people could like find mirrors of themselves to be like, oh, I'm not the only gay kid in this town. You know what I mean? Like I'm not, you know, you could find other people who are like you. So that made you hate yourself a lot less. Representation matters. And then the avalanche that has been the last like 25 years within tech development has been entirely uncontrollable for a government that is inherently bureaucratic and slow-moving beast to grasp and adapt to. These silos in many ways still exist for our older communities, although that's not to say there aren't a lot of adults online. But the difference here is that the foundation for nationalism and narrative pushing was much stronger for these generations. So that skews their perspective. Again, depending on where they fell on the privilege spectrum. Some people who were already fairly content within the Matrix as well, and many had benefited from being inside the Matrix. Like that one guy in the actual Matrix movie is like, this is a stake. You can't tell me. I want to be back in. Why did you take me out?
Steak, yeah.
I was benefiting. So for many, these groups as well, the economy was vastly different for that generation than millennials and all subsequent generations. We have inherited such a trash economy that like surviving is torture. And it's also like, if you didn't study history, like the tariffs right now makes so much sense in the context of the greater history, because that's what triggered the Great Depression, but like no. It's fine. So the deeper ingrained a person is into their understanding of reality, the harder it is to convince them that someone has lived differently than they have. And what I'm saying is that it's hard to convince people who don't know or think that like it's better them than me, or think that knowledge is incorrect because it differs from their personal experiences. Like you can be like, I've lived this. And they're like, well, I didn't. And also I'm older than you, so I'm wiser. And therefore I'm not going to listen to you, kid. Pronouns don't make sense. Like, you know what I mean? Like they have like a really hard time adjusting to this shift in like what it is to be a person in today's society. And historically speaking, this isn't anywhere near the first time we've had a Trump-esque president. This is just the first time they've entered office this organized and planned. Nor is it the first time America has forced people into camps. It's just the most recent and most publicized. Like Reagan, Trump's acting background has really helped him perform and gaslight his voting base. So we see these generations and this like narrative that they've drank the Kool-Aid of or whatever, like be so ingrained into who they are that they're easily manipulated by the actor that is Trump. Trump was really able to benefit from the foundation that Reagan set up, and many older gens fell for it. So they're definitely young Republicans. As we saw, as Gabe was describing in the book, there are some young people who are going to throw their friends under the bus. Don't get me wrong. But statistically, younger gens are far more independent, third party, or Democratic leaning than previous generations. And I have stats for this. So in a Statistica.com analysis, they showed that of all the generations, we are the most largely progressive. Like we have the least amount of Republicans. It's a 14% Republican base within our generations between 18 and 29. And now we're in the 30s to 49, which is crazy, but whatever. Still, even then, like they're higher from the younger millennials or the older millennials, I will say. But this recent gen has really had such a decrease in Republican leaning existence to the point where I would say that that is largely why that the young generation is so under threat by the Trump administration, because they recognize they don't have as much pull with these groups. Older generations, for the most part, voted for Trump more than they voted for Harris, and younger gens, those in the born in the 1990s to the 2000s, largely voted for Harris much more than they voted for Trump. So we're seeing these statistics and what happened in Cloud in the Cornfield in like real time. The statistics also aligned with this perspective on education as well. So what allowed Trump to win office is multifaceted and isn't entirely on the shoulders of these older gens. Millennials and subsequent gens can also feel discontented with Democrats as well, reasonably. And many also feel the system is too corrupt to fix, which is where we kind of got where we are right now. Because it was like a combination of them having a very strong opinion and wanting Trump in, and then also like so many people just being so overwhelmed with the amount of information and like feeling like disenfranchised by the government that they didn't want to participate in this system, because you can't fight it from within is like the mentality, which is largely true, but you can also minimize the damage and harm that's currently taking place by participating until there's an alternative available.
Mm-hmm.
So the big issue we're facing right now is that we still have to live with the reality of a Trump presidency, and millions of people will be harmed and or killed by his presidential term. Like Clown and Cornfield, America's traditional values and conservative, racist, capitalistic ideals will not go out quietly. These adults, you have to fight them with chainsaws if they're coming at you with chainsaws. And largely, like, a lot of what we're seeing right now is that, like, they're counting on us to remain silent or whatever, like proactively silent. What is it called? Like compliance ahead of being told you have to. We see like a lot of companies doing this right now, where they're obeying ahead of time, and we need the opposite of that. So an interesting fact that I also learned in my like statistical findings is that millennials had just surpassed baby boomers in population, largely because of immigration as of 2019. And while this is merely conjecture at this point, to state that that is why they are coming for immigrants so heavily, as anti-immigrant sentiment has long been an American ideal. It was interesting to see that figure with the context of this discussion.
Yeah.
Either way, what we are seeing is the same as Clown in a Cornfield, an older generation-led government trying to purge the groups that conflict with their ideals, and which we are seeing through ICE, as well as the defunding of healthcare, education, and other life necessities. And as I said, as we're going through it, I'm saying we cover identity crisis more heavily in our generation series, as well as just like why are the different generations are like this. So I recommend checking that out, as that is what I'm pulling a lot of this information from. And the historical context can be found in a lot of our episodes, but thinking of some where we were more succinct and organized and like pulling like Reagan and all that stuff, like history stuff. They Clone Tyrone was great. Us was great. Late Night and the Devil, we went largely through like Satanic Panic. So I recommend checking those episodes out if you want some of like the context for how I got to here.
Yeah. No, very true. Yeah. In our generation series for folks, featured like Heather's, Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. It follows, like, it was a lot of ones where we were covering what are the horrors that certain generations were facing when they were young, when they were these teens that we're seeing in Clown in a Cornfield. What were their horrors? And I would like, not that I would say it is right there next to like Talk to Me and Bodies, Bodies, Bodies in the scale of like being our favorite of horror movies. I do think it is saddled in there of like Gen Z fears, right? That they are like, there's a very real undercurrent with some of these young people where some of it feels a little preachy, because it really was like both sides are feeling preachy, but just this idea of like, you've handed us like a shit world, right? Like you've handed us like a failing climate, where like our seasons are changing and like our planet and what is available to us is changing. Things are going extinct. Places are going extinct. Dangers are erupting everywhere. But also like a society that's like is scary as well, that is also actively trying to harm us, and that they're just like, we're just trying to survive, like we're just trying to get out of this alive so we can try to make something up, and they're like, you know what, we're just gonna start fresh, we failed. And like that also to me is like I always have this issue with like people who complain that like millennials are like the everyone gets a trophy generation, you know, and like they're always just like, oh, everyone, you're a snowflake and you do this and everyone does it. It's like, who made us that way? Like,
like
we didn't raise ourselves.
The trophy. Because you didn't get hugs as a kid. What do you want?
Right. You didn't get hugs as a kid, so you were afraid to do X, Y, and Z with us. And now look at us. We are what we are. Like we are what you made us in a lot of ways. Whether it's like in defiance of things that you did or because of the things that you did, right? Like there's no responsibility. Like no one's taken that. So I apprecied that.
In this country?
Yeah. Couldn't. Let me put on this clown
accountability.
Oh my god. But it is a fun film, and I think like the overarching themes are very obvious, but I think also the moment, right? It is the moment. and I highly recommend the book. I always recommend the book. So
Yeah, the book sounds great. I feel like I'd give that a read. Even though I didn't dislike the movie, but I didn't love it. So I think I would like to check out the book. So it'd be good to see like some of the stuff that you just didn't have time to sit with as much. I feel like I'd enjoy the things that I missed from the movie by reading the book. So
yeah, and like it's a series, so there's like friendo returns and kinds of things like that that I am interested to see more of. So I'll probably be reading more. And you know, shout out to Adam who's out there in Philly somewhere. You know, Philly represent. I remember like reading it and I was just like, what? You just talk about Philly a lot. Like she like reminisces a lot more about like Philly in different areas, and I think like her mom dying of like an opioid overdose is really present as well, and that's just kind of like we don't have time in this film to do it. But yeah, I just like I hope this got enough credit and like people viewing it that companies are inspired to bring more books to life. I think sometimes horror novels, especially like splatterpunk and slasher, can sometimes be dismissed. But it's like, if we love slasher films, what makes you think we're not going to love some goofy movies out there, you know?
Yeah, so I mean, the horrors persist. We need some goof. We need some,
we need something fun. Over the top.
Yeah.
Yeah. I read some really like crazy, like I think would be really fun as a movie, like Fantastic Land. First of all, you should read Fantastic Land, everyone. And you should read it as an audiobook because there's like it's different people's points of views, and so you'll hear like it's different narrators, and so that's really good. And talk about splatterpunk, some of that gets really crazy. It's so good. Definitely you know, I am always talking about different books to read, so if this is up your alley, I have a lot to share with you. We just did like a little slideshow of summer books you could read. Fantastic Land was on there.
See.
So yes, and I think Clown and Cornfield was on it too. So yeah, don't get married.
Eat your kids as clowns. We really go full circle to our first episode.
Clowns, they just be coming back around, you know, and sometimes we're the clowns at the end of the day. For sometimes believing in things, but like this film, like sometimes we win. Sometimes we can rally together, we can fight for each other, and we can have like two teen boys kiss at the end of a horror movie, and they're good. Like they get to live and they get to be in love. Like that's so important, you know. Like that's exciting. And that she's like, that's cool. Like, you know what? So love it. Yeah. All right. Hope you enjoy it. Let us know what you think. Let me know if you have any book recommendations. You know, I'm here for it. And we'll see you next time for Until Dawn.
Yeah, that one was great.
All right. Bye.
Bye.